13. Slander as theft. In Leviticus chapter 19, verse 11, we have another reference in the law to slander. Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. Ginsburg refers this to the previous law, Leviticus chapter 19, verses 9 and 10, on gleaning, but the connection he makes is not too valid a one. The Berkeley version renders deal falsely as cheat, which clarifies that section of this law. Lange's comment is of historical interest with respect to the history of exposition. This and the following precepts take the usual negative form of statutory law. The 8th Commandment is there joined with the offences recounted in chapter 6, verses 2 to 5, of falsehood and fraud towards others. St. Augustine here, Questionem 68, enters at length into the casuistical question of the justifiableness of lying under certain peculiar circumstances, citing the example of Rahab among others. He concludes that it was not her lying as such which received the divine approbation, but her desire to serve God, which indeed prompted her lie. However this may be, it is plain that the law here has in view not extraordinary and exceptional cases, but the ordinary dealings of man with man. Such law is of universal obligation. Compare Colossians chapter 3, verse 9. Lange was right in citing Colossians chapter 3, verses 9 to 10. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. The 9th law word lines up truth and reality under God, and separates the world of false witness, all flight from reality, and every rejection of truth into the realm of Satan. Meyrick's comment is also of interest. Stealing, cheating, and lying are classed together as kindred sins. See chapter 6, verse 2, where an example is given of theft performed by means of lying. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25, Colossians chapter 3, verse 9. The citation of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25 is again of interest, in that it speaks of the line of division. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbour, for we are members one of another. A very obvious fact about this law, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 11, is that two forms of violation of the 8th Commandment, stealing and cheating, are given together with lying, a violation of the 9th Commandment. All the laws are closely interdependent, in that all come from the hand of the same God, but the connection of some is more immediate than that of others. The form of the law establishes an obvious connection. Stealing and cheating do involve false witness, cheating especially so. Theft is a form of false witness when the thief purports to own the goods, sells them as his own, and lives off the proceeds as though they represented his own wealth. Another important relationship between lying and theft is that slander does in fact rob a man of his reputation, his standing in the community, and his peace of mind. Although slander has largely passed from criminal to civil law, and restitution or damages are less and less awarded, historically, because of the background of biblical law, restitution has been a necessary part of the law with respect to slander. Slander is extensively denounced in Scripture. To cite a few examples, "An hypocrite with his mouth destroyeth his neighbour. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 9. Put them in mind to speak evil of no man. Berkeley version. Not to slander anyone. Titus chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29. Speak not evil of another. James chapter 4, verse 11. He that uttereth a slander is a fool. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 18. Whoso privily slandereth his neighbour, him will I cut off. Psalm 101, verse 5. It is clear that slander is seen not only as theft, but also as a form of murder. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 9. It is therefore necessary that restitution be made. The basic law reads that we are not to bear false witness against our neighbour, Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. The word neighbour is in Hebrew, reah or rach, meaning to feed or nourish, and rach also appears in Scripture as the verb to feed. The neighbour, whether a close relative or friend, an enemy or a fellow creature, is one whom we are thus to nourish, even as he has a duty to nourish us. We nourish one another. Our good neighbours are feeders one of another. When we establish and further a law order which feeds and strengthens our common life. When we bear true witness, we feed one another with the truth. True witness is by no means to be confused with flattery or in concealing evil. It does involve working together to further godly law order. Slander destroys that mutual feeding. It breaks the bonds of community life and is a murder and theft directed both against individuals and against the community. The word neighbour also gives us an insight into the nature of biblical welfare. To be neighbours one to another means to establish a society which feeds and nourishes its members by means of godly law order, and which ministers to its members' needs in terms of that law. Here, in deference to Ginsburg, we can acknowledge a connection between this law and the preceding one, Leviticus chapter 19, verses 9 and 10. The laws of gleaning do require us to help our neighbour to feed himself. Biblical welfare does not mean a class of people receiving monetary grants without work and living parasitically off of other men's labours. As previously noted, the laws of gleaning do require hard work. Moreover, the word neighbour applies to every man, rich and poor alike. That is, not only the poor are to be fed in a neighbourly society, but rich and poor are to nourish one another by working together to establish a godly social order in which all good men can flourish. Such a society cannot flourish where there is no faith. As Pascal observed, man is nothing but insincerity, falsehood and hypocrisy, both in regard to himself and in regard to others. He does not wish that he should be told the truth. He shuns saying it to others, and all these moods, so inconsistent with justice and reason, have their roots in his heart. Without faith, man simply tends progressively to reflect their fallen nature, which lives, believes, and prefers a lie. This is why the two tables of law are inseparable one from the other. Since moral order rests on theological order, man cannot long maintain a neighbourly relationship to his fellow man if his relationship to God is broken. As ever, truth is in order to goodness. Truth is the foundation and mainspring of moral character.